One of my favorite announcers in the game today. He's Troy Aikman of NFL on Fox, Pro Football Hall of Famer, and three-time Super Bowl champ. Called that game yesterday in Dallas back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Troy?
Hey, Rich, I'm doing great. I'm in Dallas. The sun came out this morning,
Yes.
but certainly a lot of disappointed folks for sure.
Well, before we get to the Dallas postmortem, can you put into words what you're seeing out of Aaron Rodgers, Troy, please, for me?
Not completely, no. I mean, he's playing the position as well as it's ever been played in the history of our game. And, Jason Garrett talked about it. He obviously has been a terrific player for a long, long time. But I think Aaron Rodgers would be the first one to tell you that, that he's playing the best that he's played. And that speaks volumes for a guy who's won a Super Bowl and he's a two-time league MVP. And I think it kind of puts into perspective exactly how he feels about how good this run has been. And what's pretty incredible, even last night's game, is that, you see it in basketball where LeBron James and Michael Jordan, those type guys, Kobe Bryant, they take over a game, almost by themselves. But you just don't see it in our sport. I think football is the great team sport, the best there is. And yet last night it just felt like Aaron was not going to let that team lose. Defensively, they were really struggling. They had a lot of injuries. They were gassed. And, I don't know that anybody was going to really be able to slow down Dallas. There was not a lot of confidence that Green Bay would be able to do that. And then offensively, they weren't getting a lot of separation. I thought what Dallas was doing defensively, but yet if he's not able to extend plays and make the throws that he was able to make on the move, that team does not come close to winning that football game. And it's been impressive to watch. We've had a lot of Packer games here down the stretch, and then, of course, the last 2 weeks. And he's a terrific talent and a real pleasure to watch play.
And then Randall Cobb said after the game that throw to Cook, that wasn't a regular play call. He just got in the huddle and made up routes and just told everyone, you go here, you go here. Did you ever do that, Troy?
No, I mean, you do it to the best of your ability in certain situations. If you don't have a particular play, right, that's in the playbook, and you need to get some, you have to do something. But to the extent that you say, hey, okay, I'm he's got the confidence in his ability to get out of the pocket when everyone knows that. That's what you can't let have happen is him getting outside the pocket, yet he does it. He does it on a weekly basis. So he's a great competitor. I've gotten to know Aaron very well. I think a lot of him, he's a smart guy. There's very little that he doesn't keep up with or that he's not aware of during the course of a ball game and what a defense is doing and how maybe he might have an edge. But, he's not the only one. We've seen a lot of great quarterbacks, and there's some that are still left out there playing. But he's a terrific player, and like I said, it's just been a real joy to watch him play here over the second half of the season.
Troy Aikman joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show after he and Joe Buck expertly, as they always do, called the Packers and the Cowboys on Fox yesterday. What is it like being in the zone as a quarterback? Can you express what Aaron Rodgers might be feeling right now?
I think that's a good question. For me, when I felt like I was really on top of things, the game is, you see the safeties, you see what a defense is doing, you see the blitzes. You don't have to think about where you're throwing the ball. The ball comes out on time. It's on the money. It's not. And usually for me, when I was struggling as a quarterback, the reason I was struggling was because of I wasn't balanced in the pocket. I wasn't. My drops were off for some reason, and I just didn't feel comfortable with my feet. So that would be the thing that I'd have to work on. If I was inaccurate with throws, that's what I'd go back to. But as far as just being able to see what's happening and what a defense is trying to do against you, there's a freedom that comes with that. And I think that the biggest part of it is you're really reacting to what you see as opposed to particular situations. And what I mean by that is if on 3rd and 1, if you're struggling and you're not really confident in how you're throwing the football, let's say it's 3rd and 3, and you're just trying to get the first down, and you're looking for a 4-yard route, a 5-yard route, something quick that you just make the completion and pick up the first. And And even if you've got a shot for a long play down the field because of the coverage and you've got one-on-one and you've got a guy you like, you wouldn't be as quick to pull the trigger on that throw. But when you're really playing well and you're really confident, the situation, it doesn't dictate so much or as much what you're willing to attempt because you have such confidence in your ability to deliver the football where you have to. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. I marvel at Aaron in his, the way that why anyone tries to substitute with him on the field is beyond me because I've been watching it. But while he's calling the play, he's got he's listening to whatever the play is, or he's making the call himself, and then he's got an eye on the sidelines.
He was counting. You guys had a shot at him counting players.
Yeah, I mean
yesterday,
and there's a lot going on. I know that there's a lot going on in the course of the game for a quarterback, just in terms of executing the offense and that, and then to still be able to handle some of the other things that he does so brilliantly is really something. I'm amazed at how much he's able to handle during the course of a game, and on top of that, at the level in which he executes.
And then before we move on to Dallas, Troy, first blush, the matchup between Rodgers and another guy who's as locked in as there's anybody in the NFL right now, and Matt Ryan after that performance against Seattle. How do you see this matching up? I've got Dwight Freeney coming up in hour number 2. How do you see this all meshing on Fox Sunday?
We had the game when these two teams met earlier in the year, and it was a shootout. It was a 33-32, 32-31 game, something like that, and that's what I think you would expect. The thing what's happened to Green Bay, I think what's Jordy Nelson's status going to be? I can't imagine coming back still even next week and being able to play in that game with broken ribs. Devontae Adams, I've got to believe that he wakes up this morning awfully sore. He rolled his ankle. He did come back, but what's his status going to be? And you start getting shorthanded in some areas, and then of course their secondary, Morgan Burnett left the game, and Quentin Rollins was out. So can Green Bay kind of rally again and potentially be shorthanded and go on the road and play that type of game against an explosive offense in Atlanta? That's going to be the challenge for them. I don't see Green Bay defensively really being able to hold the score down. I think for Green Bay to win the game, they're going to have to score some points, which obviously they're more than capable of doing. But at what point do maybe some of these injuries start to take a toll? I don't know. I think as long as Aaron Rodgers is upright and he's healthy, he finds ways to get the ball to guys and give them passes that they can make plays on. So I expect if it's going to be competitive, it's going to be a high-scoring game because I don't see Atlanta not moving the football.
Troy Aikman joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get to the Dallas postmortem. Would you consider this season a success for the Cowboys, Troy?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I know that Jason Garrett was asked in the press conference last night if this was disappointing, if the season was disappointing, and he really didn't answer it. And I think it's fair to say it's a disappointment, right? Because if you go through the year and you're the number one seed, you don't expect anything other than being in the Super Bowl, and to not win a playoff game, not get out of the divisional round, that's clearly a disappointment. Having said that, this team to go 13-3 with a rookie quarterback, I don't know how I could say that it was not a successful year. I think it was a great year in many respects. There's a real optimism with this football team, and I think it is because of the youth at the quarterback position and the running back position and some of the other spots that they have. And there's a belief that this team's starting to build towards something. And as big of a disappointment as the year was, the way in which it ended yesterday, it feels good, I think, for Cowboy fans to know that Dak Prescott passed every test, even yesterday. I mean, what a competitor he is, and what a great young man he is, and someone that this organization is going to have around for a long time and they can build around. But, yeah, I think you'd have to say that it was a success, as disappointed as they all are.
What do you think Tony Romo wants to do?
I haven't had a chance to talk to Tony. I would think I can't imagine anyone who's had the success that he's had that would be content remaining in Dallas and going through the offseason, going into training camp, going into 2017 as the backup quarterback. I can only imagine how difficult this year has been and had been for him. And the thought of having to endure that again, I just can't imagine that happening. So I would have to believe that he would still want to come back and play. And so my guess is he'll be somewhere else. But I don't think it's a departure that Jerry Jones has completely come to grips with. I don't know that, but I don't think that Jerry would want to see Romo go elsewhere. But even if Tony Romo said, hey, I'll take a pay cut and stay, even if he were to say that, I don't know how you can pay your starter who, was an MVP candidate and took your team to the number 1 seed, 13 wins, and he's making $500,000 and the backup's making $5 million or whatever the number if it were to get renegotiated. I don't know. I just don't know how. I don't know how that would work. So I would expect that he'll be playing somewhere else, and how it all unfolds, whether there's a trade or a release or where that might be for him, is anyone's guess.
2 last quick hitters for you. Did you see the Chiefs-Steelers game? Did you catch anything?
Very little. I saw very little of it.
I don't know if you saw that there was that hold at the end of the game. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not catch that. No, I was talking to actually North Turner a little bit earlier. He was talking about the play on that.
Okay. Did he have any thoughts that you'd want to pass on if it was a hold?
Yeah, he had some thoughts. I won't share his thoughts. But
okay.
It's a tough way to have a ball game end. On those types of calls, and those are the positions that the officials are in, and they have to make them. But without having seen it, I don't have a comment.
Okay, so. Last one. Ask Troy the poll question before we go out the door here.
Troy, which quarterback do you want for the next 2 games? Roethlisberger, Brady, Rodgers, Matt Ryan.
That's our poll question today, Troy. No gray area here. It's hot take sports talk radio. Troy, what do you got for me here? You got something?
Well, I'll tell you. Hey, this falls into that category when I was asked over the years, who do you take, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning? And I say, you know what? I'll give you first pick, and I'll take whoever you don't want. I'm happy. So I would look. I was talking about it yesterday, and I've said this many times, and a lot of other people have as well, that if you look at these games and you did nothing but take who you felt was the best quarterback that was playing in those games, you would have come out pretty well, right? And it's not surprising, and it never is to me, when you get to the Final Four, who those quarterbacks are, and it's not surprising that these are the 4 that are left standing. And I think they're all terrific, great players, and so I'll leave it at the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady argument that, I'll let 3 other people pick ahead of me, and whoever's left standing, I'll be more than happy to go play with and be confident that I'd win and beat your team.
Troy, you had a front row seat to some great playoff games so far. I hope the NFC Championship lives up to that billing. You and Buck are a great watch and listen. So thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich. You bet.
Always.
Thanks for having me on.
Always. Thanks for coming on. That's Troy Aikman, at Troy Aikman on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.